My cousin and I simultaneously chose our life scripts. She chose the script of a pampered wife, while I chose the script of a strong female lead. She started as the true heiress, while I began in an orphanage. She mocked me for being destined to toil all my life, unlike her, who had a devoted male lead and only needed to enjoy life. But in the end, her proud and affectionate male lead handed her over to me as a punching bag, just to beg for his own life, after accidentally dying while saving someone. My cousin and I were both given the chance to choose our life scripts in the blink of an eye. My cousin, who had just been complaining about me meddling in her affairs, suddenly had a gleam in her eyes. My cousin, Ling Feishue, came from a poor family, and mine was even poorer. This opportunity to freely choose our lives made us all very excited. Ling Feishue rolled her eyes and said with faint cleverness, "I want to read all the life scripts first before choosing." The system seemed a bit hesitant and said uncertainly, "This is a blind selection, you can't look." Ling Feishue instantly threw a tantrum, crying and shouting, "I lost my life because I saved someone. I'm so kind, yet I don't even get the privilege of reading the script. That's really too much." The system had no choice but to play them one by one for Ling Feishue: the script of the malicious female supporting character, the script of the tragic heroine, the script of the diligent female top student, the script of the vengeful heroine, the script of the cannon fodder female supporting character. All the scripts played out before us, and as Ling Feishue watched, her greedy gaze suddenly fixed on the script of the delicate wife. In the script, the delicate wife heroine only needed to be delicate and soft, and to indulge in leisure and pleasure, because everything would be taken care of by the devoted male lead. She doesn't need to do anything. Just by relying on the devoted male lead, she can become the happiest woman in the world. This is exactly what Ling Feishue has always dreamed of. Ling Feishue's voice trembled with excitement as she sharply declared, "I want to choose this doting wife script." The system turned to me and said, "Scripts cannot be chosen repeatedly. Since you contributed the most to saving people, you have the priority to choose." Ling Feishue immediately became nervous, afraid that I would compete with her. My gaze, however, turned to the strong female lead script beside me. In the script, despite a difficult fate, the female lead rises to the peak of life through her own efforts and wisdom. This is something I have always wanted to do, but I am too foolish. Even with the same effort as the female lead, I could never succeed. I softly asked the system, if I choose the strong female lead script, can I also possess the intelligence and wisdom of a strong female lead? The system gave me an approving yet surprised look and immediately replied, "Of course, choosing the doting wife script grants you a devoted male lead, while choosing the strong female lead script grants you the female lead's innate talents and skills." I chose the strong female lead script. I want to rely on my own efforts to pursue and achieve my dreams, even if the journey is rough and difficult. Ling Feishue breathed a sigh of relief, then she gave me a mocking look, her tone tinged with pity. "Yi Wanqing, you really are born with a wretched fate. You lived such a miserable life in your past life, yet you still have to go through it all over again." Ling Feishue and I were reborn at the same time during the enrollment event at Lanmu High School. The admissions teacher said to Ling Feishue and me, "There is only one spot left at the school now. The two of you will compete, and whoever has the better grades will get the spot." After saying that, she handed us 2 Olympiad math test papers. Ling Feishue snatched the papers, glanced at them, and immediately screamed, "These are Olympiad math problems. Did you get the wrong ones? Who could possibly solve such devilish things?" The admissions teacher's face darkened. Lanmu High School is not an ordinary high school. Of course, the test papers are more difficult than those of other schools. If you have a problem with that, you don't have to take the exam. Ling Feishue held back her frustration and closed her mouth. She dared not skip the exam. Lanmu High School was the dream high school for everyone. Once admitted, you were halfway to Tsinghua University, which is why some called it Little Tsinghua. She frowned as she worked on the test paper, unable to understand a single question, and could only scribble aimlessly on it. The moment I received the test paper, I couldn't help but laugh. Thanks to the protagonist's innate wisdom, these obscure and difficult questions seemed incredibly simple to me. I quickly wrote down the answers one by one, not even needing to pick up the pen to calculate, because the process of solving the problems had already gone through my mind. When I finished writing the entire exam paper, I noticed several admissions teachers gathered around me, looking excited and thrilled. An older teacher eagerly picked up my exam paper, looked it over, and then clapped his hands in praise, repeatedly saying, "Full marks, full marks, this little student is truly amazing." The other teachers also looked at me with smiling eyes. One of the teachers, angered by Ling Feishue's scribbling, said, Indignantly, there's no need to even look at the exam papers, this spot belongs to Yuanqing. Ling Feishue can't answer a single question. As everyone praised me, Ling Feishue's eyes were filled with jealousy and resentment. At that moment, a portly middle-aged man rushed in, clutching a paternity test in his hand. When he saw Ling Feishue, his eyes instantly reddened, and he trembled as he said, "My daughter, I've finally found you." The middle-aged man was dressed in expensive clothing. Clearly a wealthy man, Ling Feishue's face was instantly lit up with joy as she tearfully pleaded to the man, "Dad, you finally came. This lousy high school refuses to give me the last admission spot." After saying that, Ling Feishue looked at me with a determined gleam in her eyes. Ling Feishue's wealthy father donated a building to the school and snatched away my admission spot. I returned to the orphanage, while Ling Feishue became the true heiress and was proudly taken home by her wealthy father. Ling Chendong. Ling Feishue sat in the pink princess car, her eyes crinkling with a smile. Ling Chendong said with a smile, "Feishue, this car was prepared for you by your fiancé, Song Jinghe. He really likes you and has been looking forward to marrying you." Song Jinghe is the devoted male lead in the doting wife script. After hearing this, Ling Feishue anxiously asked, "What kind of person is Song Jinghe? Is his family wealthy?" Ling Chendong patted Ling Feishue's head and said smugly, "Of course. He's rich. He's the son of the wealthiest man, with excellent grades and a promising future. If you marry him, you can look forward to a life of comfort for the rest of your days." After speaking, his gaze turned greedy, and he smacked his lips. "With the wealthiest man as our backer, our family's life will be unimaginably comfortable." Ling Feishue's face was filled with excitement. She pinched Ling Chendong's hand and said eagerly, "Hurry up, I want to go back and see Song Jinghe. I don't want to stay in this wretched place for another minute." Ling Chendong nodded eagerly. Ling Feishue caught sight of me out of the corner of her eye and flashed a triumphant smile. Sitting in her princess car, she waved at me, half mocking and half smug. "Cousin, I'm going to live the life of a true heiress and enjoy all the luxuries, so I won't be suffering alongside you anymore. What's the point of being some strong, independent female lead? What good is a woman relying on herself? Relying on a man is the real way to go. Being a pampered wife means you don't have to do anything. Just take good care of your husband, and you'll have everything. That's the ultimate enjoyment in life." Ling Feishue's sarcastic words kept echoing in my ears. Is it impossible to succeed in life without relying on men? I don't believe it. After Ling Feishue left, I was sent to an ordinary, mediocre high school near the orphanage. I didn't slack off or become lazy just because I had talent. Instead, I worked even harder. On the way to the library closing, you could always see my figure. Almost no one in the school studied, so my diligence and hard work seemed like a joke. I heard someone sneer, "She must be pretending to work hard. If she really loves studying, why would she come to our high school?" But they didn't know that I was forced to come to this high school against my will. The orphanage was too poor to afford my tuition, but this high school, upon seeing my grades, agreed to let me attend for free and provided me with free room and board. I wasn't afraid of the harsh environment. I knew that the environment was only an influencing factor, and that my own efforts were the determining factor. Mud cannot hide the radiance of a pearl, nor can the night obscure the brilliance of the stars. By the end of my first year of high school, I had become the top student in my grade. No one at school mocks me anymore. Their gazes are now filled with curiosity and envy. By the end of my sophomore year, I had secured the top spot in the provincial joint examination. Everyone at school takes pride in me, and they can't help but exclaim, "It's no wonder she's so outstanding. She's not only talented but also incredibly hardworking." Taking me as an example, people at school no longer feel ashamed of working hard. Instead, they have quietly started to study. At the beginning of my senior year of high school, I met the principal of Lanmu High School with tuition waived, room and board provided, and a 1 million yuan scholarship. The principal of Lanmu High School sincerely invited me to join the best class at Lanmu. On my first day there, I saw Ling Feishue again. She wasn't wearing the school uniform but rather an exaggerated, revealing, and sexy dress, showing off to those around her. I wore this especially for my boyfriend. He loves it. After speaking, she raised her arm and pointed to the large tattoo above, her tone filled with immense pride. Song Jinghe's name. When I showed him the tattoo, he was overjoyed. He loves me so much. The teacher accompanying me to familiarize myself with the campus, Ms. Du, let out a disdainful snort and said contemptuously, "She's Song Jinghe's little darling. You don't need to treat her as a classmate. She's going to become a wealthy lady after graduation." I nodded, not intending to pay any attention to Ling Feishue, but unexpectedly, she spotted me with her sharp eyes. She swayed her hips as she walked up to me, looked me up and down, and suddenly giggled. "Yuanqing, this isn't an orphanage or some ordinary, run-down high school. Did you come to the wrong place? Poor people should stay where they belong. Lanmo High School is no place for you. As soon as Ling Feishue finished speaking, Teacher Du reprimanded her with displeasure. Ling Feishue, watch your tone. Wanqing is a student personally invited by the principal to join Class 1. Ling Feishue instantly widened her eyes. Staring at me in shock, she glared at me with dissatisfaction. Her eyes filled with jealousy and resentment, gritting her teeth as she said, Class 1. How could you get into Class 1? Teacher Du said coldly. Yu Wanqing ranked first in the joint exam, even surpassing Song Jinghe to second place. Of course, she is qualified to enter Class 1. After speaking, Teacher Du glanced slightly at Ling Feishue, his tone icy. Unlike some people, who only have eyes for their husband and no interest in studying, so they will never make it into Class 1. The reason Lanmo High School is so strong is precisely because of the existence of Class 1. Unless one excels academically, it is absolutely impossible to enter, so even if Ling Feishue is the future daughter-in-law of the richest man, she is not qualified to join. Teacher Du is capable of serving as the homeroom teacher of Class 1 not only because of his strong abilities but also because of his significant background. Therefore, he is not afraid of Ling Feishue and does not hesitate to speak bluntly. Ling Feishue's lips paled, and the look she gave me seemed to be filled with hatred. I understood her psychological shift. Originally, she didn't mind not being able to enter Class 1, she thought studying in Class 1 was too demanding, and she didn't want to suffer through it. She'd rather spend more time thinking about how to win Song Jinghe's favor. But now, with someone like me, who is destined to live a life worse than hers, entering Class 1, her mind became extremely unbalanced. She's playing the role of the pampered wife, so she should always live better than me. Ling Feishue leaned close to my ear and said through gritted teeth, You think you're so smug, don't you? Well, you're wrong. It's just a top-tier class. I have Song Jinghe, and I can get in whenever I want. You'll soon realize that your hard work is worthless compared to my advantage as a pampered wife. On my first day in Class 1, I encountered Ling Feishue's devoted male lead, Song Jinghe. He frowned at me, a hint of impatience in his expression. So you're Feishue's orphanage cousin. If you came here to hurt or provoke Feishue, I suggest you give up now. Feishue is innocent and kind-hearted, unwilling to deal with you, but I won't be so merciful. I clicked my tongue slightly. These days, our devoted male leads all like mad dogs biting everyone in sight. Ling Feishue really should keep her male lead on a tighter leash. Am I some kind of cheap person, letting her male lead attack me at will? I sat down slowly, still unable to hold back a laugh, and said, I'm here to study. I don't have time to deal with your little darling. Only then did Song Jinghe's expression soften slightly. Then he warned me, Feishue will be joining Class 1 in the future. You better show her some respect, or I'll make you regret it. I wonder, with Ling Feishue's ranking as the worst in the entire school, how could she possibly get into Class 1? Could it be through cheating? Soon, I understood. It really was through cheating. In the following monthly exams, Song Jinghe sat right next to Ling Feishue, openly handing his test paper to her to copy at. The teachers around, intimidated by Song Jinghe's power and status, all pretended not to see. After several monthly exams, I ranked first in the grade, while Song Jinghe and Ling Feishue, the married couple, tied for second place. These two had the same scores, and even their mistakes were identical. Anyone could see what was going on, but there was no way around it. Ling Feishue had been in the top 10 of the grade in all 5 monthly exams, already qualifying her to enter Class 1. Teacher Du looked at Song Jinghe with disappointment. He had originally thought that although Song Jinghe liked Ling Feishue, he at least had a bottom line and wouldn't do foolish things for her sake, but he never expected that Song Jinghe would openly help Ling Feishue with plagiarism today. Because of his status, the school dared not punish him, but in the future, once he falls from grace, the knife of helping his lover cheat will completely crush him to the bottom, never to rise again. Teacher Du agreed to let Ling Feishue join Class 1, but at the same time, he completely gave up his appreciation and regard for Song Jinghe. On the day Ling Feishue entered Class 1, she deliberately walked over to my seat and said smugly, What's so great about hard work? I can get into Class 1 too, thanks to my boyfriend, Zhou Si, a poor student in the class, couldn't stand it and whispered, So what if you got in? Yu Wanqing is the top student in our class, a genius, even Song Jinghe can't beat her. Ling Feishue immediately glared at him, her tone full of mockery. You sissy, you're just a poor student. If you dare mess with me, you're messing with Song Jinghe. Do you think your life isn't miserable enough? Zhou Si had a slender build, but his face was even prettier than a girl's. He spoke softly and was not only bullied by Ling Feishue but also cruelly called a sissy by her. Zhou Si glared angrily at Ling Feishue, but ultimately lowered his head with a flushed face. He didn't have the family Background of Song Jinghe, nor could he match him in academics. He lacked the courage to provoke Song Jinghe and dared not offend Ling Feishue, who was under Song Jinghe's protection. Seeing Zhou Si like this, Ling Feishue felt satisfied and said to me with an air of superiority, Yuanqing, you see how happy it is to be Song Jinghe's girlfriend. After saying that, she hypocritically advised me, women should rely on men, being a strong, independent woman is useless. Any accomplished man prefers delicate and gentle women. After speaking, she concluded, your taste in scripts isn't great. After Ling Feishue left, I walked over to the despondent Zhou Si and said to him very seriously, thank you for speaking up for me. Zhou Si was overwhelmed with shame and said sadly, I didn't help at all, and I just made you the target of her mockery again. I shook my head. Even when he knew his strength was limited, he still stood up for others. Even when he knew it was impossible, he still tried. Even if the outcome wasn't ideal, he was still a hero. Would you like to join me in the national competition? I extended my hand to invite Zhou Si. Zhou Si widened her eyes, looking at me in disbelief, and stammered, and me, can I really? It's no wonder Zhou Si was so surprised. The national competition is held every 3 years, with top schools from across the country participating. If the college entrance examination is a test for all students nationwide, then the national competition is a selection for the nation's top students, choosing the best among the best. Moreover, unlike the college entrance examination, the national competition is a team event for two, as it tests not only students' individual abilities but also their teamwork skills. It is no exaggeration to say that winning an award in the national competition is more prestigious than becoming the top scorer in the college entrance examination, because outstanding students may not necessarily take the college entrance examination, but they will definitely participate in the national competition. Lanmo High School has always paired the top 2 students to compete, ensuring a greater chance of winning. Although Zhou Si's grades are good, they still fall a bit short compared to Song Jinghe's, so he doesn't dare hope to participate in the national competition. I smiled and said, of course, I'll help you. Zhou Si lowered his head and hesitated, saying, but the school will probably have you and Song Jinghe participate, right? I looked in the direction where Ling Feishue had left and said meaningfully, don't worry, Ling Feishue won't let me team up with Song Jinghe for the competition, and besides, I don't want to team up with Song Jinghe either. Sure enough, as soon as Teacher Du announced that Song Jinghe and I would be teaming up for the national competition, Ling Feishue immediately threw herself on the floor. Crying and making a scene, she glared venomously at Teacher Du and cursed him. What are you thinking, letting them go to the competition alone, a man and a woman together? Song Jinghe is my fiancé. If anyone should team up with him, it should be me. Teacher Du's face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth, saying, this is the school's arrangement, please comply. Ling Feishue started crying and making a fuss again. This time, she pointed at me and said, was it you who arranged this with the school? You regret it now, don't you? You want to swap life scripts with me, and you want to steal Song Jinghe from me, right? After saying that, she buried herself in Song Jinghe's arms, hugging him and saying, Jinghe, don't compete with Yuanqing, she just wants to steal you away. Song Jinghe held Ling Feishue tenderly, frowning as he stared at me, his tone filled with displeasure. I won't compete with you, the only one I like is Feishue. From now on, don't try to get close to me like this. It only makes me dislike you even more. I was so angry I laughed. Teacher Du, on the other hand, slammed the table in fury. Song Jinghe, please watch your tone. This decision was made by the school, and Yuanqing had no idea about it. Song Jinghe paused, his expression turning somewhat unpleasant, but he still insisted, I will only participate in the competition with Ling Feishue. You figure it out. Teacher Du sneered coldly. Are you threatening me? Let me tell you, if you don't value this opportunity, there are plenty of others who would love to take part. At this moment, I pointed at Zhou Si and said, Teacher, Zhou Si wants to participate, and I'd like to join him. Teacher Du glanced at Zhou Si and made a decision. All right, Wanqing, you'll switch to participating with Zhou Si. I'll handle the school's side. After saying this, he glared at Song Jinghe, his tone utterly disappointed. With your head full of romance and foolishness, even if you're the son of the richest man, you'll still amount to nothing in the future. Song Jinghe's face turned pale. This was the first time Teacher Du had spoken harshly to him. He knew this was also the last time, because Teacher Du would no longer focus on him in the future. Holding the delicate and soft Ling Feishue in his arms, Song Jinghe felt a wave of irritation for the first time. The participants in the national competition were replaced by me and Zhou Si. Ling Feishue was overjoyed, because for her, not only did she not have to endure the hardship of participating in the competition, but she could also separate me and Song Jinghe. This was simply a great stroke of luck, so, on the day Josie and I set off for the competition, Ling Feishue couldn't hide her joy, her smile stretching from ear to ear. Song Jingha's face darkened as he said with displeasure, "Are you really that happy that I can't participate in the competition?" Noticing his anger, Ling Feishue quickly tried to soothe him, flattering him with a sweet smile. "Brother Jingha, don't worry. I know Yuanqing well. She only knows how to study by rote. She might be good at solving problems, but the national competition requires practical innovation, and she definitely won't be able to handle it. When she comes back in disgrace, the school will regret not letting you participate." Upon hearing Ling Feishue's words, Song Jingha's displeased expression finally softened. He snorted coldly and said arrogantly, "I thought so too, those high-end technologies in the national competition. Someone like Yuanqing, who comes from an orphanage, probably hasn't even seen them before." But Song Jingha overthought it. "Not only have I seen them, but I'm also incredibly skilled at them." Watching me casually build a robot, Josie, who was by my side, was utterly stunned and repeatedly asked if I had done it before. I shook my head, explaining that I had just read the book carefully. Josie's gaze instantly turned admiring as he murmured, "It's really a win to be able to compete with you." I patted his back and said with a smile, "You're not bad either, and the fact that you can come to compete with me is of great use to me." Josie hurriedly asked what use, and I smiled, but asked him, "Do you want to surpass Song Jingha?" Josie was stunned for a moment, then her eyes filled with longing as she said firmly, "I do." I nodded solemnly and said, "All right, I'll help you, but remember, you owe me a favor." Josie nodded eagerly, her gaze toward me growing increasingly fervent and admiring. Josie and I successfully won the gold medal in the national competition. When we stepped onto the stage to receive the award, Song Yueming, who was presenting the prize, paused for a moment upon seeing Josie's face. It wasn't until someone reminded him that he snapped out of his daze, his expression complicated as he placed the gold medals around our necks. I looked at Song Yueming and smiled. Anyone who saw a face that resembled a combination of their first love and themselves would feel their heart flutter uncontrollably, even if they were the richest man. Song Yueming wasn't Song Jingha, the devoted male lead, most proud of his identity. I want to see how he can stir up trouble without the facade of being the son of the wealthiest man. When Josie and I returned to school, there was a clamor of gongs and drums, and firecrackers were set off. The principal and all the teachers stood at the entrance to welcome us. The principal walked up to me, looked at us with a smile in his eyes, and said excitedly, "You two are truly outstanding, making a great contribution to Lanmo High School." Teacher Du also stepped forward to praise Yuanqing. "Josie, I am proud of you." Another teacher chimed in. Back when we didn't choose Song Jingha, everyone was on edge. Who would have thought Teacher Du had such foresight, selecting two champions? As soon as he finished speaking, the surroundings fell into silence, with only Song Jingha continuously exuding a low-pressure aura. His expression dark and gloomy, he clenched his fists tightly, the veins on his neck visibly bulging. Teacher Du sneered, not bothering to comfort him at all. Ling Feishue cautiously tried to please Song Jingha, but he pushed her away, nearly causing her to fall to the ground. Ling Feishue felt so wrong that tears welled up in her eyes, looking pitifully at Song Jingha. After all, she was the girl he loved, and Song Jingha couldn't bear to see her sad. He could only say gruffly, "I'm in a bad mood, don't take it to heart, I need to adjust myself." After saying that, he left without looking back. Ling Feishue angrily and sadly pounded the ground. After being pushed down, she sprained her ankle and couldn't get up for a long time. I walked over to help her up, only to see her still gazing obsessively in the direction Song Jingha had left. After all, she is my cousin, I sighed and reminded her, "Feishue, men are unreliable. Being independent and self-reliant is more important than anything else." Today, Song Jingha could abandon Ling Feishue here alone. Tomorrow, he would discard Ling Feishue like a worn-out shoe. When a girl can only survive by depending on a man, tragedy begins. "Shut up," Ling Feishue screamed hysterically. She accused me with bitter resentment. "If you hadn't interfered, Song Jingha and I would have loved each other for a lifetime without any conflicts. He is the devoted male lead, he loves me to the bone, and he would give me the whole world. Don't flaunt your success in front of me, even if you're better than me now. It's just one competition. Song Jingha still loves me. If I tell him to destroy you, he will. He is the son of the richest man, while you're just an orphanage bastard, Yuanqing. Just you wait. Once I win Song Jingha back, I'll show you what a real gap is. You will never live better than me." Looking at Ling Feishue's near madness, I realized that no amount of persuasion would work. I turned and walked away. While Ling Feishue kept calling Song Jingha's phone, pleading incessantly, I was wrong, forgive me, don't leave me. After all, he was the deeply affectionate male lead. Ling Feishue waited half the night and finally saw Song Jinghe arrive. Song Jinghe helped her up with a cold expression, his face clearly displeased, but Ling Feishue was overjoyed, leaning softly into his arms and saying, I knew you wouldn't ignore me, you love me the most. She didn't notice that at this moment, there was not a hint of joy in Song Jinghe's eyes, only impatience after placating Song Jinghe. Ling Feishue began to focus all her efforts on dealing with me. During the monthly exam, Ling Feishue deliberately threw a note in front of me. Before I could even react, she screamed loudly, Teacher, someone is cheating. The proctor helplessly glanced at Ling Feishue, knowing her unreasonable nature and that I couldn't possibly have cheated. She said, This doesn't count, no one saw her cheat. At that moment, Song Jinghe stood up coldly and said, Teacher, I saw it with my own eyes. Can she be punished now? Ling Feishue wanted to deal with me, and Song Jinghe would naturally help her. Besides, he also disliked me intensely. Seeing the proctor still hesitating, Song Jinghe sneered, What's wrong? I'm the son of the richest man. Do you doubt that I'm lying to you? This is already blatant pressure and threat. The invigilator had no choice but to take us to the principal's office. Ling Feishue threw a tantrum, pointing at me and saying, Principal, cheating is too despicable. You must give her the most severe punishment. I almost laughed out loud. She said this without a hint of guilt. Song Jinghe stood beside Ling Feishue, his gaze fixed on me with annoyance, then slightly raised his chin toward the principal, his tone carrying a command. Ling Feishue is right. Cheating is too despicable and must be severely punished. The principal nodded, his face also showing righteous indignation as he angrily said, Yes, it's too despicable. It must be severely punished. How about we punish Yi Wanqing by not allowing her to take the college entrance exam? What do you think of this approach? Ling Feishue immediately beamed with joy and nodded eagerly. For someone who could only rely on the college entrance exam to succeed, being barred from taking it was a fatal blow. As for me, I was stunned, not allowed to take the college entrance exam, but I've already been admitted to Tsinghua University, so I don't need to take the college entrance exam at all. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the principal winking at me. I immediately understood and put on a pained, aggrieved expression. I reluctantly deceived Ling Feishue and Song Jinghe, since these two didn't know I had already been admitted. Seeing my expression, Ling Feishue looked even more pleased. She leaned in close to my ear with a graceful smile and said, Yi Wanqing, now you understand, don't you? No matter how hard you try, I can easily crush you. After all, who wouldn't want a devoted male lead who's the son of the richest man? Song Jinghe also walked over, frowning as he advised me, since you can't take the college entrance exam, there's no need to come for any future tests either. It's just a waste of time. I chuckled inwardly. He was clearly afraid that if I took the exams, I'd snatch the top spot in the grade from him every time. And not much talent, but plenty of pettiness. I obediently nodded, since I was already guaranteed admission. There was really no need for me to attend classes or take exams anymore. For the remaining time, I needed to fulfill one of my small dreams. After stopping my classes, I plunged headfirst into the entertainment industry. I had always dreamed of becoming an actress, but in my previous life, I died too early and never had the chance to make it happen. Since I've already secured my admission, with nothing else to do, I decided to pursue my dream. At first, I just worked as an extra, but later, due to my solid acting skills, I caught the director's eye and became the female lead in The Legend of Liu. I am immensely grateful that I chose the path of a strong female lead, possessing the talent and wisdom of one. Whether it was improving my grades or honing my acting skills, it all came effortlessly to me. The Legend of Liu is a major IP drama, and to ensure the quality of the filming, a closed set was required, so I went back to Lanmu High School to pack up my things and get ready to leave, and just as I was leaving, I happened to run into Ling Feishue. Ling Feishue burst into laughter as soon as she saw me packing my things. She feigned a sigh and pretended not to understand. Didn't you pick the strong female lead script? I heard that strong female leads are all very impressive. How come when it's your turn, you can't even finish high school and have to drop out? I quietly watched her performance. Ling Feishue looked at me with a mix of sarcasm and pity, her tone growing even more exaggerated. There's no helping it. Who made you so foolish back then, not even trying to compete with me for the beloved wife role? If you had taken on that role, you'd be the one enjoying a happy life today. Her tone was regretful, but her expression was filled with endless mockery. After saying this, she continued to boast on her own. It's really troubling. Song Jing has said that after he gets into Tsinghua University, he'll demand they accept me too, or else he won't go. Me, someone with the worst grades, actually going to Tsinghua. It's just unbelievable when you think about it. I couldn't be bothered to listen any longer. The director had been blowing up my phone, and the entire crew was waiting for me to start filming. I walked slowly out, with Ling Feishue gleefully bidding me farewell behind me. Goodbye, don't be so foolish in your next life, not knowing how to be a pampered wife. Once I entered the film crew, I threw myself wholeheartedly into acting. There were highly respected senior actors in the crew, and whenever I had time, I would seek their advice, carefully take notes, and diligently improve my acting skills. Fearing that I might ruin The Legend of Liyue, the director praised my acting skills profusely, claiming that I was a rising star in the entertainment industry. Since every scene was shot in one take, the filming of The Legend of Liyue progressed quickly. By the time the college entrance exam season arrived in June, the production had officially wrapped up. At the wrap party, everyone was in high spirits. Everyone knew deep down that The Legend of Liyue was exceptionally well made, and once it aired, it was bound to become a massive hit across the internet. The director raised a glass to me, his eyes slightly moist, and said, "Wanqing, I'm so glad we chose you as the lead actress back then. Your hard work and talent have been evident to everyone. Thank you so much. It was you who made this series a success." Someone beside me chimed in, "Sister Wanqing, once The Legend of Liyue airs, you're going to skyrocket to the top. I wonder if we'll even be worthy of sitting with you by then." Exactly. Once The Legend of Liyue is out, Sister Wanqing's talent will undoubtedly make her a top-tier star. She'll be winning awards left and right. I simply smiled without saying a word. I know in my heart that although I put in the effort and indeed performed well, it's not as exaggerated as everyone says. As I downed the fruit wine in one gulp, it suddenly occurred to me that the broadcast of Pear Moon Chronicles coincided with the release of the college entrance exam scores. Given Ling Feishue's abilities, she probably only managed to score in the single digits. With such a score, would Tsinghua University really accept her? Just as the director predicted, The Legend of Liyue became an instant hit as soon as it aired. Such a great drama, and I discovered it right after finishing the college entrance exams. I declare this the happiest moment of my life. It's rare to see such a high-quality drama nowadays. I'm going to stay up all night watching it. I'm truly impressed that they dared to cast newcomers. The director's courage is 30 years ahead of mine. Has no one noticed? This new actress's acting skills are way too strong. Even the seasoned film emperor almost couldn't keep up with her performance. What kind of monster is she? Come on. Besides her acting, her face is also super beautiful. Please let me look like this in my next life. While netizens were discussing, the new female lead of The Legend of Liyue quickly climbed to the top of the hot search list, with the entire internet focusing on my related information. At the same time, I had temporarily returned to school to listen to Teacher Du reprimand Song Jinghe. Teacher Du nearly fainted from anger, gritting his teeth and saying, "This Song Jinghe is truly insane. He just barely made the cutoff for Tsinghua, yet he dares to demand that they admit Ling Feishue along with him, or else he won't attend." Ling Feishue only scored 3 points. Even a fool would score more than that. How could Tsinghua possibly agree? They're already reconsidering whether to accept Song Jinghe. If he's hanging around with Ling Feishue, what kind of smart person could he be? That fool Song Jinghe. If I had known he was like this, I would never have wanted him from the start. As Teacher Du went on and on with his rant, I opened my phone and raised an eyebrow. Just then, a recent post by Ling Feishue quickly followed and climbed to the top of the trending list. "My boyfriend got into Tsinghua and warned them they have to take me too, or he won't go, but I only scored 3 points. Who understands? I really love having such a domineering boyfriend. I want to be his pampered wife for life." This is hard to judge. For a moment, I couldn't tell if Ling Feishue was showing off her relationship or digging her own grave. What was originally a half-chance situation became completely hopeless the moment Ling Feishue posted it. I casually scrolled through the comments, and it was a sea of criticism. I'll be waiting right at the gate of Tsinghua University to see who dares to enter with a score of 3. Is that supposed to be domineering? I just think it's brainless. And warning Tsinghua, boo-hoo. I'm so scared. I'm speechless, absolutely speechless. Being a pampered wife for life. Which Qing dynasty princess is this? It's really suffocating, and they actually feel proud and honored. I handed the phone to Teacher Du, who immediately let out a curse from her mouth, then grumbled and went to find Ling Feishue and Song Jinghe. Ling Feishue never expected that the casual post she shared to show off would cause such a huge uproar. Even more unexpected was that the comment section was filled not with envy, but with criticism. When Mr. Du and I arrived, she was kneeling in front of Song Jinghe, crying and begging for forgiveness. Just a moment before, Tsinghua University's admissions office had called, not only rejecting Song Jinghe's request for a special admission arrangement but also turning down his application. Altogether, Song Jingha had negotiated with them for a long time, but Tsinghua University simply had no interest in accepting him due to the negative impact of Ling Feishua's actions. Major universities, pressured by public opinion, all refused to admit Song Jingha. Despite scoring high on the exams, Song Jingha might end up not being able to get into any university at all. Song Jingha's face was as dark as a storm cloud. He glanced at the aggrieved Ling Feishue, then suddenly shoved her to the ground, roaring furiously, "How could you be so stupid? Getting a score of 3 is one thing, but how could you just casually share it?" Ling Feishue lay on the ground, sobbing and whimpering, but she didn't dare to resist Song Jingha at all. Teacher Du walked coldly up to Ling Feishue and said, "I've just discussed with the principal, and we will immediately sever your ties with Lanmo High School to avoid being dragged down by you." Ling Feishue's eyes widened in shock. Teacher Du's words were essentially a disguised expulsion. Without a high school student status, wouldn't her 3 years of study have been in vain? Ling Feishue immediately cried out to Song Jingha for help. Song Jingha still had feelings for Ling Feishue and was about to plead on her behalf when Teacher Du suddenly stared at him and said coldly, "Either she leaves, or you leave, you choose." Song Jingha suddenly fell silent. He turned to Ling Feishue and comforted her, saying, "Feishue, it's okay, even without a degree. You still have me. I will protect you for the rest of your life." Ling Feishue's face was blank and bewildered. She couldn't understand. Song Jingha was the devoted male lead, so why did a single word from Teacher Du make her abandon herself? But she forgot that while Song Jingha truly loved Ling Feishue, in the end, he loved himself the most. At their core, a pampered wife is no different from a pet when the master is in danger. How could they possibly care about the pet's life or death? Ling Feishue was expelled from Lanmo High School. She had served Song Jingha for 3 years at Lanmo High, yet in the end, she remained without any status or recognition. Feeling guilty toward Ling Feishue, Song Jingha proposed to send her into the entertainment industry and help her become famous. Ling Feishue did not refuse. In the past, she would have definitely found it too tiring and refused outright. However, after experiencing Song Jingha's heartless betrayal, she gradually realized that having a devoted male lead might not be of much use after all. To quickly become popular, Ling Feishue invested her own money to join the production and quickly starred in a movie, hoping to soar to fame overnight. However, as soon as the movie was released, it was met with widespread criticism across the internet. "You acted really well, but please don't act again. Last time, I tolerated the use of a newcomer because Sister Wanqing had acting skills, but what happened this time? The performance was so poor. The audience's eyes not eyes. Don't try to imitate Yu Wanqing. Her acting skills are something you can't replicate." Ling Feishue angrily threw the script aside and then secretly spread the rumor online that I had entered the entertainment industry because I dropped out of school. She mocked netizens. "Do you think Yu Wanqing is any good? She was expelled from school and only has a middle school education." Without hesitation, she slandered me, maliciously saying, "She's an orphan who loves stealing things the most and doesn't deserve to be the female lead at all." Since Ling Feishue treated me this way, I could no longer sit idly by. Instead, I posted my Tsinghua University admission notice online. As soon as I shared the notice, the entire internet erupted. "Woo-woo, my sister Wanqing is both a top student and a film queen. She's just too amazing. Yu Wanqing is absolutely brilliant. This is the epitome of a strong female lead. Yes, starting from an orphanage. Now she's both a film queen and an academic prodigy. I'd believe she has a major female protagonist system." Not only that, but the resourceful netizens also dug up the incident where Ling Feishue was expelled from school, as well as the fact that she plagiarized Song Jingha's work to secure second place in the grade. Hilarious. The thief cries stop thief. Turns out the one with only a middle school education is herself, daring to cheat your way to second place in the grade with a score of 3. How could you have the nerve? Don't you feel guilty, cheating off your boyfriend's exam in school, and then relying on him to get into the entertainment industry after dropping out? What a blessed life as a pampered wife. Hey, upstairs, would you want that kind of blessing? While the online criticism was raging, Ling Feishue stormed over to me, her eyes filled with venom, and she gritted her teeth, saying, "You lied to me, you really are vicious." I lifted my eyelids and said, "How did I deceive you? I really didn't take the college entrance exam, nor did I attend a single day of classes," Ling Feishue said frantically. "But you got a recommendation." "How could you possibly get a recommendation?" She gasped heavily, her breath unsteady. "Even if you got a recommendation, why did you have to enter the entertainment industry? You're the one who stole the fans' affection. They should all like me." My voice grew colder. "As long as you focus on acting and improve your skills, everyone will naturally like you." Ling Feishue scoffed dismissively. "Are you stupid? Improving Acting skills is so much hard work, it's just not worth it. Right now, among the newcomers, it's just you and me. Without you, everyone will have no choice but to like me. She looked at me with a gaze full of malice. You were lucky last time, but this time, I'm going to completely cut off your escape route. I was blacklisted at Ling Feishua's desperate plea. Song Jinghe, without Song Yueming's knowledge, used all his resources to have me blacklisted. Although I had a promising future, I was still just a newcomer, not worth the directors in the entertainment industry offending Song Jinghe for. Thus, after my sudden rise to fame, I quickly faded into obscurity. Meanwhile, with Song Jinghe's relentless investment, Ling Feishua rapidly gained popularity and was flooded with acting offers. Ling Feishua deliberately brought Song Jinghe along to kick me while I was down. She nestled happily in Song Jinghe's arms, proudly showing off to me, "People really need a capable fiancé, brother." Jinghe has spent who knows how much money just to secure a foothold in the entertainment industry. You work so hard to improve your acting skills, but it's no match for me having a devoted fiancé. Oh, by the way, brother Jinghe has already promised me that we'll get married in a few days. Soon, I'll be a wealthy lady. Ling Feishua was putting all her effort into showing off, but Song Jinghe seemed a bit distracted. His brow slightly furrowed. During the gap after Ling Feishua left, he looked up and said to me, "Yuanqing, if you can negotiate with Qinghua to let me in as well, I might consider letting you off." Ever since the incident with the spoiled wife last time, Qinghua had stopped considering accepting Song Jinghe, but he remained extremely persistent, insisting on nothing less than Qinghua. Actually, it wasn't him who was persistent, but Song Yueming. Actually, Song Jinghe could have single-handedly made Ling Feishua famous, and donating money for school wouldn't have been a problem either. The key issue was that Song Yueming had high hopes for Song Jinghe, expecting him to get into Tsinghua University on his own merit. He firmly forbade Song Jinghe from doing such things, so Song Jinghe had no choice but to pin his last hope on me, especially since Tsinghua University held me in high regard. The aspect Song Yueming was most satisfied with about Song Jinghe was his academic performance. If Song Jinghe were to disappoint him, Song Yueming would not feel comfortable entrusting the family fortune to him. Seeing that I remained unmoved, Song Jinghe let out a light scoff, his tone tinged with a hint of disdain. "You want more, don't you? I promise you, if you can persuade Tsinghua, I'll not only let you off but also consider liking you." His expression, which seemed to say "don't be ungrateful," made me laugh. I asked him, "You like me, but what about Ling Feishua?" Song Yueming clicked his tongue impatiently and said, "Of course I love her, but she can't stop me from pursuing a better future." What a devoted male lead. In the face of real interests, devotion is worthless. I leisurely smoothed my hair at the temples, but my voice carried not a trace of warmth. "Song Jinghe, you're truly contemptible." Song Jinghe choked back abruptly, sneering coldly as he threatened me. "Let me tell you, you must get this done for me. I can make you have no place in the entertainment industry, and I can also ruin your future completely." I smiled as well, raising an eyebrow slightly. "I'll be waiting." After Song Jinghe left, I dug out Zhou Si's phone number. I've prepared so meticulously for so long, it's time to play this trump card of his. When I found Zhou Si, he was chatting with Song Yueming, looking perfectly harmonious. Ever since the last competition, Song Yueming has been very concerned about Zhou Si, often coming to see him. With all the back and forth, their relationship has rapidly deepened. I lowered my gaze, thinking that given Song Yueming's vast connections, he must have already found out that Zhou Si is the child his beloved gave birth to. The story of Song Yueming and Zhou Si's mother is essentially about a poor country boy who married a wealthy heiress for power, and his childhood sweetheart, unable to bear it, ran away pregnant, and Zhou Si was the ball that was taken away. The white moonlight had long since passed away, and facing this child left behind by her, Song Yueming's heart must have been filled with guilt and longing. Upon seeing me, Zhou Si excitedly said, "Uncle, this is my classmate Yuanqing, the top student in our class, who is directly admitted to Tsinghua University." Song Yueming has always admired those with excellent academic performance, and upon hearing this, his gaze towards me was filled with appreciation. Zhou Si then added gratefully, "When I was bullied in class, Yuanqing always helped me. She even practiced with me and entered competitions together. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have had the chance to meet you." Song Yueming's favorable impression of me grew even stronger. From that day on, I often went to see Zhou Si and Song Yueming, chatting with them. As we spent more time together, Song Yueming's gaze toward me grew increasingly appreciative. Meanwhile, Song Jinghe, who had been waiting in vain for my news, frequently sent me threatening messages. "Hurry up and get me admitted, or I'll make you pay. I know you go to Zhou Si's house every day. If you don't get me admitted soon, I'll have Someone smashes place. I looked at Song Jingha's threatening text message and smiled. After finally managing to keep Song Yueming here, what I feared most was that Song Jingha wouldn't come to break down the door. I provoked him. You wouldn't dare. Soon, the furious Song Jingha replied. Just wait. Tomorrow, I'll personally bring people to smash Zhou Si's house. At this moment, I smiled at Song Yueming and said, Uncle, will you be coming tomorrow too? I have a few questions I'd like to ask you. After spending so much time together, Song Yueming treated me like his own daughter. Hearing this, he immediately smiled and said he would come. The next day, Song Jingha came over with a group of people, full of aggression, ready to beat me up. Zhou Si immediately stepped in front of me to shield me. Seeing this, Song Jingha sneered and said, Zhou Si, I am the son of the richest man. While you are just a poor student who can't even afford tuition, you're not even worthy of my little finger, yet you dare to stand in my way. Zhou Si mustered up the courage and said, I don't care who you are, but you can't harm me. Wanching, hitting someone is against the law. Song Jingha laughed even louder, his tone sinister as he said, I'm the son of the wealthiest man, so what if I hit someone, with my dad around, who would dare detain me? Once I take control of the Song family, I won't even be afraid of killing. With that, he waved his hand, ready to order his men to smash up the house. Let's see who dares. At that moment, Song Yueming suddenly walked out of the room and slapped Song Jingha several times across the face. Song Jingha, his face pale, called out, Dad. Song Yueming was filled with disappointment. His gaze shifted back and forth between Zhou Si and Song Jingha, feeling that the character of these two individuals was worlds apart. Song Jingha couldn't even compare to 1/10,000th of Zhou Si. Song Yueming looked coldly at Song Jingha and said, If you're not even afraid of murder, rest assured, the Song family will never be handed over to a murderer like you. Song Yueming had always been a man of his word, and Song Jingha immediately panicked, retorting, Dad, I'm your only son. If you don't give the Song family to me, who else could you give it to? Song Yueming pointed at Zhou Si and said, Zhou Si is also my son. I think he is more suitable to take over the Song family than you are. Song Jingha stared at Zhou Si in disbelief, completely stunned. In just a few short days, the Song family underwent a complete transformation. Zhou Si was recognized by the Song family and became the head of the Song family. Upon learning about the series of foolish actions committed by Song Jingha, an enraged Song Yueming directly expelled him from the family. At the same time, Lanmo High School also exposed Song Jingha's misconduct in helping Ling Feishue cheat, which led to prestigious universities, already unimpressed with Song Jingha, rejecting him one after another. In the end, Song Jingha had no choice but to attend a mediocre university. Without Song Jingha's deliberate efforts to promote her, Ling Feishue instantly fell from being a top-tier celebrity to rock bottom. Not only did she face overwhelming criticism from netizens, but she also faced astronomical compensation due to her inappropriate image. Ling Feishue panicked. She cried and begged Song Jingha, but the down-and-out Song Jingha couldn't offer her any help. Having lost everything, Song Jingha vented all his anger on Ling Feishue. He glared at her with hatred and cursed, How dare you come to me for help? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have fallen to this state. I must have been blind to like you so much, to do so many foolish things for you, to lose everything for you. Faced with Song Jingha's accusations, Ling Feishue also retorted with resentment, You useless fool. I was the one who was blind to choose you, the so-called devoted male lead. I wanted to rely on you for a lifetime of happiness, but you couldn't give me anything and only dragged me down everywhere. The once loving couple now blamed and resented each other as disaster loomed. What's the use of deep affection in this new life? I absolutely won't choose this doting wife script. In the end, Ling Feishue shed tears of regret and whispered softly, When Ling Feishue fell from the clouds, I gradually climbed to the peak. Thanks to my solid acting skills, I quickly reached the peak of my career. In just a few days, I went from a struggling actor to a critically acclaimed actress, receiving numerous endorsements and awards. One day, as I was returning home after filming, I saw Ling Feishue at my doorstep. She looked extremely haggard, covered in bruises, and seemed a bit mentally unstable. I know that ever since Song Jingha lost everything, his temper has become exceptionally irritable, and he drinks heavily all day long. But because of the deep affection male lead's nature, no matter how much Ling Feishue makes a scene, he refuses to break up with her. Even when drunk, he resorts to domestic violence against Ling Feishue, tormenting her until she is barely recognizable. Ling Feishue's eyes were filled with red veins as she stared at me neurotically, muttering, I want to change the script. I want to be the female lead. I frowned and stared at her, pondering the meaning of her words, when she suddenly pulled a fruit knife from her pocket and lunged at Me like a madwoman, she quickly said, the script cannot be chosen repeatedly. As long as I kill you, I can take the lead role. She moved too fast. By the time I realized what was happening, the fruit knife had already stabbed into my heart, and blood kept flowing out. Intense pain struck, and I felt my consciousness growing increasingly hazy. As I passed out, the last thing I saw was Ling Feishua's face, twisted with madness. When I woke up again, I was in a high-end hospital room. I actually didn't die, but the knife clearly stabbed into my heart. Just as I was wondering, a gentle voice came from the doorway. Don't doubt it, you're not dead. I looked toward the door and widened my eyes in surprise. The person before me clearly had Josie's face, but now with long hair and wearing a red dress, she looked radiant and captivating, completely different from her previous timid and fearful self. Seeing me staring at her in a daze, she smiled, blinked, and said, don't doubt it, I am a girl. I was just disguised as a boy before. I went to great lengths to save you. Aren't you going to thank me? I couldn't help but ask her how she saved me, since I was clearly dead. Josie smiled again, slyly saying, didn't the system tell you that after gloriously completing the life script mission, you'd get one chance to fulfill a wish? She brushed her hair aside and continued, I forgot to mention, I'm on the revenge heroine script, aiming to seize the Song family and destroy the scumbag father-son duo, Song Yueming and Song Jinghe. It suddenly dawned on me that Song Yueming had abandoned Josie's mother back then, while Song Jinghe and his mother had relentlessly persecuted Josie and her mother. No wonder Josie forgave Song Yueming so quickly when he became the head of the Song family. She never intended to forgive, she only wanted revenge. She succeeded, becoming the head of the Song family. Not only did she strip Song Jinghe of everything, but she also froze all of Song Yueming's assets, forcing him to wander and suffer the hardships her mother once endured. Ling Feishua was sentenced to life imprisonment for intentional homicide, while Song Jinghe was also imprisoned for intentional robbery. On the day I was discharged from the hospital, Josie came to pick me up. I lowered my gaze and asked her, why did you sacrifice such a precious wish to save me? It was clear that I had initially intended to use her, and she couldn't have been unaware of it. Josie's palm pressed against mine, and she smiled gently, her words lingering in my mind for a long time. If women don't help women, who else can we expect to save us? Besides, I still owe you a favor. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My sister has a lace-like fro growing around her lower abdomen. Men love to tear it off. If a woman sews the torn lace into intimate clothing and wears it, she can change the gender of her fetus from female to male, but no one knows that once this lace is worn, it can never be taken off. My sister is the village's beloved, one of the top girls around, because she is pure and chaste, with a clean reputation. Men all want to get a piece of her lace skirt, only I know that my sister is not at all the kind of good girl who guards her purity. She would let men tear off the translucent lace that grew from her lower abdomen. Every time the lace hem was torn off, she would bleed. Every man was deeply moved, believing that my sister had entrusted her true heart to them, but in truth, my sister had a secret. Her lace hemline can regenerate every night. After the man she entertained today left, my mother told me to take my sister, who was lying limp on the bed, to the field behind the mountain. I helped my sister wipe away the bleeding red spots on her lower abdomen and asked with concern, sis, does it hurt? But my sister licked the corner of her lips, still savoring the moment, and said, you don't have a lace hemline growing on you, so you wouldn't understand. That is, a mix of pain and pleasure. I helped my sister up and, imitating my mother's earlier actions, had her stand in the dugout pit. I did my best to bury the lower part of my sister's abdomen, where the lace-edged skirt would grow, into the red soil. My sister let out a contented sigh, as if soaking in a hot spring. Just wait until tonight passes, and my sister's same spot will grow a new layer of sexy lace trim. A girl like my sister is called a lace saint in the village. Little sister, do you want to be cultivated into a lace saint like me by mom? My sister's question made me pause for a moment as I was patting the soil onto her body. I shook my head like a rattledrum and said, I'm not as tough as my sister. If I were the one being forged into the lace saint, I probably would have failed long ago. I spoke these words from the bottom of my heart. A girl who becomes a lace saint grows a delicate lace-like frill around the soft flesh of her navel on her lower abdomen. This is the bride from our village, wearing the most beautiful wedding dress. Every man would be captivated by such a bride, unable to take their eyes off her. A maiden with a lace-clad holy body can always marry into a higher social class, escaping her original status. At the same time, women stitch the lace torn from her into intimate undergarments and wear them, believing it will help them conceive a boy instead of a girl. Therefore, every young girl in our village, hoping to rise from obscurity to prominence, aspires to be cultivated into a lay saint. However, the conditions for cultivating a lay saint are extremely demanding, and almost no girl in the village can endure the cultivation period. The young girls selected for cultivation as lay saints must be virgins. The girl is planted headfirst into the soil, relying solely on a nasal tube to breathe air and consume liquid food, enduring a full 49 days. On the last night, use a needle to prick the girl's body full of holes. If the girl can survive such torment, she will be reborn, becoming the lace saint, and those needle holes will become the canvas for the lace hem to spread and grow. Before my sister, no girl in the village had ever succeeded. Legend has it that only the purest and most resilient young women can endure such torture. Hearing my answer that I had no intention of becoming a lace saint and competing with her, my sister relaxed and said inexplicably, "It seems only I am reborn." I wanted to ask my sister what reborn meant, but I had an upset stomach, and a sudden urge to poop hit me. My sister covered her nose and told me to go away in disgust. I hid behind a tree hollow dozens of meters away, pooping while poking at a bright red poisonous mushroom with a small stick. I discovered that, aside from being brightly colored, poisonous mushrooms have another sign. Often, on the stem of the mushroom, there would be a skirt-like fringe that looked exactly like my sister's. This barren red soil patch, where the poisonous mushrooms grew, was a feng shui treasure my mother had recently discovered, perfect for cultivating the lace saint body. 2 months ago, after disappearing in the mountains for 2 days and 3 nights, my mother suddenly returned home with a gleam in her eyes and said mysteriously, "I've found a perfect spot, guaranteed to cultivate one of you sisters into a lace saint body, Diana. Bella, which one of you wants to give it a try?" Although my mom was asking both me and my sister, her sparkling eyes, however, were fixed unblinkingly on my sister. In our family, it has always been this way. My mother always favors my eloquent sister more. After a moment, my sister spoke up first to my mother. "Cultivating the lace holy body is a life and death struggle. As the older sister, I am willing to suffer in my sister's place." My mother, with reddened eyes, praised her. "You truly are my good daughter." Then, she turned to me with a warning glance. "If your sister becomes the lace holy body, you must not be jealous or scheme against her behind her back. Remember firmly, it was you who didn't choose. I never had a choice in the first place, only waiting to pick up what my sister left behind." I suppressed the grievance in my heart and nodded sullenly. It turns out that the red soil my mother discovered indeed has something special. On the 49th night after my sister was buried in the earth by my mother, my sister, who had already stopped breathing, suddenly came back to life. Her body was covered in bleeding needle marks, and on her emaciated, palm-sized skull-like face, a pair of terrifyingly large eyes suddenly snapped open. My mother cried tears of joy. After hundreds of years, our village has finally produced a pure maiden with a lace holy body once again. Feeling much more at ease after relieving myself, I noticed the night growing darker, so I quickly pulled up my pants and hurried back to guard my sister. On the way, however, I heard a rough man's voice. "You wretched woman, give me the money now, or else, I'll cut all your newly grown lace trimmings to pieces. You've been deceiving people in the village every day, boasting about your innocence. My body remembers it clearly. Even before you could grow lace, you were never a chaste maiden." It turns out my sister was no longer a virgin before she was buried in the ground, but according to the older generation, this would bring unforeseeable disaster to the village. My sister is so bold. I was so shocked that I covered my mouth, but accidentally stepped on a branch and made a noise. "Hurry up, my sister might be coming back soon. You don't want to risk not getting any more money in the future, do you?" Hearing the noise, my sister panicked and urged the man to leave. That wild man, unwilling to lose his long-term meal ticket, reluctantly slipped away. I was afraid my sister would guess that I had discovered her secret. After a long pause, I pretended as if nothing had happened and walked back. In the darkness, I only heard my sister mutter gloomily, "Reborn at such an inopportune time. Why did it have to coincide with him?" After I returned, my sister was still worried and repeatedly questioned me, asking if I had heard any strange noises on the way. I played dumb, pretending to regret having eaten something bad that upset my stomach and delayed my time. The sound just now might have been something like a weasel. Only then did my sister feel relieved, waiting for me to dig her out of the dirt pit. I hooked my arms around my sister and pulled her out like a radish. After my sister twisted her slender waist and walked away gracefully, I stayed where I was. I spread my hands open, and the remaining mucus actually glowed in the night, amidst the vibrant poisonous mushrooms around. They complemented each other beautifully. Early the next morning, my door was knocked on loudly. My Mother thought it was an impatient male customer and quickly told me to go and greet them. I opened the door, only to find a woman wearing a floral headscarf standing at the entrance, the wealthy pig farmer in the village's Bob's wife. I asked her what she wanted, but she rudely pushed me aside and barged straight into my sister's bedroom. Bob's wife lifted my sister's quilt and, seeing the lace hem of her light clothing still in place, breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It wasn't in vain that I rushed over early this morning. I didn't come for nothing." Then she turned to my mother and got straight to the point. "Helen, name your price. I'll take all the lace trims that have newly appeared on your daughter in the past week." It turns out that Bob's wife has been married for 5 years and has given birth to 3 children, none of whom are sons, with the family's pig farm facing the risk of having no one to inherit it. That's why they thought of spending a fortune to buy my sister's lace trims, sewing them into a lightweight pair of underwear to wear close to the skin. This is to achieve the legendary effect of transforming a female fetus into a male one. Originally, my mother only sold the lace to men for tearing. Moreover, to create scarcity and drive up my sister's value, she only received each man once. The men who obtained my sister's lace treasured it and kept it close to their bodies. Every man my sister has entertained has, without exception, started to fantasize and wanted to take things further with her. I once curiously asked my mom, if the men in the village just talk to each other, wouldn't they realize that almost every one of them has a lace item from her? Why would they still be willing to pay a high bride price to marry my sister? But my mom said, men are actually very easy to fool. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. As long as you make the man feel like he is the most special one in your heart. Bob's wife is very generous with her money. My mother isn't foolish enough to turn down money, and soon the two of them agreed on a price. My sister, however, wasn't very happy. Her lips were pouted so much that you could hang an oil pot on them, and she whispered, "What if this lady wears lace lingerie and ends up looking more seductive than me? What if Brother Bob doesn't want to come see me anymore?" As soon as these words were spoken, both my mom and Bob's wife looked rather displeased. My mom had no choice but to ask me to take Bob's wife outside first. She would handle my sister, whose mind was filled with nothing but men, and try to talk some sense into her. I pulled Bob's wife outside. She kindly slipped me some money. "Look how thin you are. Your mother probably saves all the nutritious food at home just for your sister, who loves boys. Take this money and buy something good to eat to nourish yourself." Seeing that I was reluctant to accept it, she reassured me, "Don't worry, I won't tell your mother or your sister. Your aunt here isn't short on money. She seems like a good person." After hesitating for a long time, I couldn't help but advise her, "Could you please stop buying my sister's lace-trimmed skirts?" Bob's wife thought I was still upset about the earlier incident, unhappy with her indecisive husband, and was standing up for her. She laughed heartily and instead comforted me, saying, "I'm long past the age of going crazy over men. I had a son so that my in-laws would officially hand over the pig farm to me sooner. By then, that bastard, heh. No, that's not it." I shook my head repeatedly and leaned in to whisper in her ear, "There's something wrong with my sister's lace skirt." "Little sister, what are you saying to Auntie? Let me hear it too." But before I could explain, my sister had already appeared behind us like a ghost. Although she was smiling sweetly, the cold glint in her eyes made me tremble. "Auntie, I was just being stubborn earlier. Please, come inside." Bob's wife only thought that my sister and I had a minor disagreement. She waved it off casually and followed my sister into the house to tear the lace. I heard the familiar sound of fabric tearing from inside the house, and before I knew it, my back was soaked with sweat. "I'll come again at this time tomorrow." Shortly after, Bob's wife left happily, holding the white lace hem tinged with pink. After finishing, as usual, I attended to my sister as she went to the pit behind the mountain to take a mud bath. I prayed silently that my sister wouldn't hear anything. Fortunately, my sister seemed to have genuinely forgotten and didn't press me further about what I had said to Bob's wife. My heart, which had jumped to my throat, settled back into my stomach. Late at night, I was sleeping in a daze. Suddenly, a slippery black shadow slipped under my covers. I was so frightened that I let out a silent scream, but the figure quickly covered my mouth. "Silly little sister, it's me, your own sister." My sister hugged me from behind. Not idle with my hands, I began to remove my clothes. "Sis, what are you doing?" I nervously held my sister back. My sister chuckled and said, "Silly girl, I'm just taking your measurements. I was thinking of making you a pair of lace-trimmed underpants for when you get married, so you can have a son in one go and strut around your husband's house." My sister's words eased some of my doubts. My sister continued, "Little sister, you must remember, don't turn your elbow outward. In this village, the only ones we can trust are our own family." My face instantly flushed red. It turns out my sister had heard every word I said to Bob's wife during the day, yet she chose to repay my unkindness with kindness. Alas, I am such a terrible person, with no man in the house. Mom and I have been trying every way to sell lace trimmings just to save more dowry for the two of us sisters. This way, You can marry into a better family and have more confidence in your husband's home, right? The more my sister spoke, the more ashamed I felt that night. As a grown-up, I snuggled up to my sister and fell asleep, something I hadn't done in a long time. In my drowsy state, I faintly heard my sister say, "Little sister, I'm taking these shorts of yours for now. I'll give them back to you once I've sewn on the lace trim." The next day, I was woken up by my mom hitting me wildly with a stick. For some reason, my mother flew into a towering rage, ignoring my desperate pleas. She drove me, disheveled, out onto the street. Bob's wife, as usual, came to pick up the lace trim, kindly taking off her own coat. She tried to drape it over me, but my mother stopped her. "Mom, what did I do wrong? Why are you treating me like this?" I crouched on the ground, crying bitterly, not knowing why. More and more strange gazes gathered around. Faced with my questions, my mother only grew angrier and hit me even harder. "You shameless brat, how dare you say that? This pair of worn-out pants has been passed around among all the men in the village," my mother said as she threw a pair of pants at my face. "Isn't this the same pair my sister took from me last night?" "Mom, my sister hasn't met many men in her life, so she couldn't help herself in the moment." Looking at my sister, who was pretending to mediate but was actually criticizing me for being desperate for a man, my uneasiness grew even stronger. I don't have one," I screamed in frustration. But no one was willing to believe me. "Hiss, the bitch doesn't recognize me now, but you're..." Shouting just brought back some memories. Ha ha ha. At that moment, a sleazy man in his 30s, reeking of sweat, stepped out from the crowd. He was an out-of-town truck driver who had come to the village. Because of the many moles on his face, the villagers called him Mole, and I recognized this voice. It was the voice of the wild man who came to threaten my sister for money that night. How could I not understand? This was a trap my sister had set for me. The evidence is overwhelming, and I can do nothing to change the situation. No wonder my mother is so angry. Our village is backward and conservative, placing great importance on chastity. If a woman loses her virginity before marriage, she can forget about getting married and will have to stay at home and live off her parents. It would also tarnish the reputation of the sisters in the family. Sure enough, the villagers who had gathered to watch began to spit at me. Who would have thought that the elder sister is a pure and chaste saint, guarding her virtue like jade, yet she has such a promiscuous and unrestrained younger sister. My mother's final act of mercy was to pay a man to marry me, her adulterous daughter, and take me away from the village. But the man said, the whole village saw it, "Your daughter didn't bleed that time with me. Who knows how many men she's been with before me. Auntie, don't even think about making me the sucker who takes the fall." Seeing that the scoundrel refused to marry me, I became a complete laughingstock. My mother was so angry with him that she nearly fainted. In the middle of the night, I hid in my family's pigsty, covering myself with straw to keep warm. "Little sister, it's so cold outside. Why don't you come inside?" A honeyed voice laced with poison whispered in my ear. Who else could it be? Naturally, it was my dear older sister, the one who made it impossible for me to return home. "I'm going to kill you. I trusted you so much." Anger gave me, starving and freezing, a sudden burst of strength, and I lunged at my sister, but the men who appeared behind her broke my wrists. Among them were not only my sister's old flame Mole, but also other truck drivers. They all looked at me with the greedy eyes of wolves eyeing a dying sheep, leering at me as I writhed in pain on the ground. The next second, they wanted to rush over and devour me alive. Why do you hate me so much? I am your only sister." Is it because my sister was afraid that I overheard her conversation with Mole and learned the secret that she had lost her virginity before being cultivated into a lay saint, so she wanted to nail me to the pillar of shame first? Or is it because my sister is worried that I, with my pure body, might also be molded into a lay saint by Mom in the future? Is she afraid that I might shake her unique status in the village? After a long pause, my sister pretended to be innocent and said, "Because there can only be one lay saint." Before my consciousness faded, I heard my sister's cold, mocking laugh. "Take it easy, don't let her die." That night, as I struggled in endless agony, fragments of my past life flooded my mind, forcing me to finally understand why my sister wanted to harm me. She's afraid I've been reborn too. She's afraid I might inflict upon her the same atrocities she subjected me to in our previous life. In our previous life, when my mother posed the choice, "Which of you sisters wants to be forged into a lay saint?" my sister, who always had to be first in everything, turned her head away and nobly refused. Women have the right to control their own bodies. Who to be with should be decided by the woman herself, not necessarily left to her future husband. At that moment, both my mother and I were stunned by my sister's words. How could a village woman with little education have the chance to be exposed to advanced feminist ideas? I even admired her, thinking that she truly believed this. It wasn't until I had endured 49 days in the soil, on the night when the lace holy body was about to be completed, that I realized the one who had spoken those words was not my sister, it was the outsider man, Mal, who had deceived my sister and taken her innocence. He had successfully brainwashed my sister that night. My sister, who had eloped with Mal and left the village, returned. She frantically tore at the delicate lace hem that had just grown on my body. Little sister, your brother-in-law's family says they'll only let me marry into their family if I give birth to a son. The lace hem growing on your body, doesn't it have exactly that effect? Please help me and your future nephew. Later, my sister ignored my desperate pleas, displeased that I could only grow one layer of lace trim each night, which was too slow and not enough for her to wear. I was skinned alive by her and died. In my previous life, it wasn't until the moment of my death that I realized my sister's motive had nothing to do with her non-existent son. Instead, she didn't want me to marry better than her and outshine her, all thanks to my lace holy body, so she wanted to strangle all possibilities in the cradle before this thing she could never accept happened. Unfortunately, I found out too late. Before I completely passed out, tears of unwillingness streamed from the corners of my eyes. The only mercy my sister showed me was persuading Mom to let me stay. They chained me to a pigsty with an iron chain. From then on, I became the last resort for the men who came for the first time, when they couldn't get to my sister's lace skirt. In the eyes of the whole village, my sister was the moon in the sky, coveted by all but untouchable, while I was the weed in the cesspit, despised and trampled by everyone. But my sister's good days were far from over, and there was even more joy to come that day. The matchmaker brought a wealthy young man from the city to our village to choose a bride. They said family background didn't matter, but she had to be a girl of noble character and refined tastes, preferably one who could bear enough sons to form a soccer team. The matchmaker's words almost mentioned my sister's name directly. Soon, my sister and the wealthy young man became very close. At night, the wealthy young man escorted my sister home under the eaves. The two reluctantly bid each other farewell. My sister said coquettishly, "I've given you everything, including what is most precious to me. You can't go back on your word now. You must have your family come to propose as soon as possible." The wealthy young man, looking thoroughly satisfied, kissed the back of my sister's hand and assured her, "When I return to the city this time, I'll prepare a dowry of 10 million and come back to marry you in grand style." I dug my nails into my palm, the pain magnifying my resentment. I don't understand why the world is so unfair. Why do the wicked only seem to prosper more and more? Seeing that my sister is about to marry into a wealthy family, it's time to prepare the most beautiful lace wedding dress. My mother thought she could also benefit and live a good life. She then decided to no longer let the villagers see the lace hem of my sister's dress. The villagers felt it was a pity, but they could understand. Fortunately, in the wealthier households in the village, almost all the women were already wearing undergarments with lace trims. Soon, good news came from every household. Bob's wife paid for the pregnant women to be taken to the city, where they paid doctors to check, and all were confirmed to be boys. For a while, the whole village was filled with joy. The village chief came with others to say that my sister was the village's great hero. On the day she gets married, every household in the village will give her a wedding gift. In a corner where no one is paying attention, a handsome young monk has arrived in the village. At this moment, he is standing in front of me, gazing at me with a look of pity. He held a peachwood compass in his hand. The needle, shrouded in dark energy, was pointing directly toward my house. The young monk said, "The resentment in the village is too strong. If we don't dispel it in time, once the resentment turns into a curse, the entire village will suffer, and no one will escape death." The villagers had no doubt that I was the demon. With that, he wanted to grab a weapon and charge into the pigsty to kill me. The young monk was greatly alarmed and managed to restrain the easily agitated villagers. "Everyone, please allow me to perform a ritual to determine the source of the resentment and evil." The little monk picked up straw from the ground and tied it into a sieve-like tray. It was filled with yellow and white paper money cut into the shapes of demons and oxen, and lit with cypress branches. After completing these tasks, he held the sieve tray in his left hand and a peach branch and willow twig in his right, chanting binding and exorcism spells. He fumigated every corner of my home with smoke and waved the peach branch and willow twig. Suddenly, the smoke stopped right outside my sister's door. It no longer drifted forward but rose straight up into the sky. Inside the door was my sister, who never stepped out of the house, focusing solely on embroidering her wedding dress. The young monk picked up a woodlouse lying on its back from the threshold and tied it to a peach branch and willow twig with a hemp rope. Sent out, it was hung on the crooked neck tree in my yard. The little monk said, "Who the evil spirit in this household is, we will know by observing this insect tomorrow." The villagers could never have suspected my sister, who had frequently brought them good news from behind the door, but he still gave the young monk some face, waiting only until tomorrow to execute me. Now, I have long been numb to death. In the dead of night, the young monk returned. He managed to untie the chain around my neck and told me to run quickly. "Do you believe me? Not resent me?" I looked at him in disbelief. Everyone despises me, yet He chose to believe in me. The young monk sighed and opened his palm to show me. Inside was a dead pill bug. He told me that during the day, he had actually calculated that the demon who would bring disaster to the entire village was my sister, but at the same time, he unfortunately also calculated that he was no match for my sister, because my sister had already won over the hearts of everyone in the village. The will of the people, this woodlouse calculated his fate. He had no hope of coming back to life, but he still decided to risk his life and give it a try. Before leaving, I tugged at his sleeve and begged him to run away with me. The young monk, however, shook his head firmly and gave me a faint smile, saying, "Because in this journey of mine, the one I must eliminate is your sister, and the one I still wish to save is you." The next day, the young monk's corpse appeared in the unmarked graves. Hungry wolves and wild dogs mercilessly tore and gnawed at the young monk's remains. The villagers said that this dead bald donkey was impure in his six senses and had violated the precept against lust. He broke into my sister's room in the middle of the night with ill intentions. Fortunately, he was discovered in time by the righteous men of the village and beaten to death with clubs, but I believe in him. He wouldn't be that kind of person, and in this world, the only person who ever trusted me shouldn't be treated this way. I risked being discovered by the villagers to retrieve the young monk's body. My sister's angry supporters were indeed already waiting here. I was caught and locked back in the pigsty. They wanted to burn me on the spot, but my sister pleaded for me. She said, "I want my only sister to see me in my wedding dress." So my life was spared until the day of my sister's wedding, but deep down, I knew my sister didn't plead for me sincerely. She just wanted to use her grand, glorious wedding to continue humiliating and provoking me, as if only through such a contrast could her happiness hold any meaning. After my sister married into the city, the villagers got their wish and hanged me. Faced with my death, my mother did not shed a single tear. To her, I, who had lost my chastity, was not even worth as much as any sow raised in the household. With the source of resentment and evil eliminated, the villagers joyfully awaited the arrival of new life, but the doom of the entire village had only just arrived. The male infants born by clinging to my sister's lace skirts were all deformed. There was only one bright red poisonous mushroom. It turned out that the so-called male fetuses were merely the spores of the poisonous mushroom, parasitic and reproducing at the same time. It is precisely because of these hallucinogenic spores that more and more people in the village have become infatuated with my sister, even to the point of madness and obsession. The villagers woke up as if from a dream. The lace holy body is actually a shell inhabited by poisonous mushrooms, and the lace hem on my sister's lower abdomen is the annulus of the poisonous mushroom. To cultivate the lace Eucharist, what is needed is not a virgin with a pure body, but a patch of red soil, found by my mother, overgrown with poisonous mushrooms. These poisonous mushrooms have an annulus structure. Under the mushroom cap are gills densely covered with tiny pores. The pipes connected to these small holes are filled with spores. The annulus, on the other hand, is the membrane that wraps around the gills of a young mushroom. After it expands and breaks, it remains as a skirt-like structure on the stipe. The annulus resembles lace, delicate and fragile, preventing the premature release of spores. In contrast, artificially tearing off the annulus conveniently facilitates the ejection and reproduction of spores. Ridiculous. The entire village has long become a breeding ground for poisonous mushrooms. The villagers even revered my sister, who brought the spores of the poisonous mushrooms into the village. As an auspicious sign, the villagers, powerless and enraged, unable to do anything to my sister who was far away in the city, could only vent their anger by burning my mother to death. But this was not the end. Not long after, all the men who had asked my sister for lace trimmings died from various misfortunes, and the only one who could have saved them, the kind and innocent young monk, had long been mercilessly beaten to death by them. Soon, there were no living people left in the village, only the bright red poisonous mushrooms, growing more and more wildly, covered the mountains and fields. My sister, who despises women and adores men, ultimately brought ruin upon her men. Meanwhile, at the wedding banquet in the city, my sister was horrified to discover that the so-called wealthy young master who had deceived her was merely the family's driver, and the one she was about to marry turned out to be a portrait of the deceased. The driver's head rolled and tumbled. Coming to a stop at her feet, my sister was forced into a ghost marriage by the matchmaker. She lowered her head and finally saw the face in the portrait clearly. It was the young monk whom she had slandered to death with her own words. The matchmaker mercilessly declared her crime. "I married you into this family because of your unique constitution, hoping it would persuade my son to leave the monastic life and return to the secular world. Yet I never expected that you, this venomous woman, would cause the death of my only son. No, this shouldn't be my Fate, my sister let out a scream and fainted. When she woke up again, she found herself lying in a hospital. My mother and I stood on either side, watching her with concern. My sister was confused and asked me, "What year, month, and day is it now?" I told her cruelly, "Once you wake up, your mother-in-law will drag you back to observe morning again." My sister let out a painful wail, snatched the fruit knife from my hand, and without hesitation, slit my throat. I get it now, she was trying to kill me again, to start over once more. If it doesn't work, just restart. I will definitely live better than everyone else. Before closing my eyes, I saw my sister laughing maniacally and uncontrollably, but she didn't notice that I, whose throat she had slit, also had a faint, almost imperceptible smile at the corner of my mouth. "You win." The young monk let out a long sigh and said to me, "Expected." Without experiencing another's suffering, do not urge them to be kind. Someone like my sister is simply not worth his saving, nor does she deserve a chance at rebirth. Having turned into a vengeful spirit, I let out a cold laugh, like slaughtering a chick. I effortlessly snapped my sister's neck. Yes, in truth, there was never any rebirth for my sister. The previous story was nothing more than a bet that the little monk and I took part in. It was an illusion constructed using the hallucinogenic spores of poisonous mushrooms. The so-called past life in my sister's mind is the true reality. On the 49th night, when I was planted in the red soil, the sacred lace body was about to be completed. My mother stood by and let my sister torture me to death. Filled with deep resentment, I turned into a vengeful spirit and sought revenge on my sister. But to protect my sister, my mother went to great lengths and hired this young monk to subdue me. I made a bet with him, betting on whether my sister was worth saving. If he wins, I have to let my sister go and willingly submit to him. If I win, he has to stand aside and not interfere in the cause and effect between my sister and me. Thus, in the illusion, my sister gets a chance at rebirth. The story returns to its original starting point. My mother brought back the good news. I found a sacred place where one of you sisters can be transformed into a lay saint. This time, the little monk secretly cheated for my sister. He let her know about the past events that occurred before he appeared. Thus, he guided her to choose to replace me and become the new lay saint. The young monk had thought that my sister, who had insight into her past life, would rely on her self-sacrificing act of righteousness. Using sisterly affection, she would successfully redeem and reform me. But he never expected that my sister, given the chance to turn the tables, would display a level of malice far beyond his expectations. In any time or space, those who despise women and favor men are not worth saving. After I had avenged my grievances and eliminated my resentment, my spirit gradually dissipated in the sunlight. The young monk, however, took off his kasaya to shield me from the scorching pain of the blazing sun. I looked at him, puzzled and confused. Just like in the illusion, the young monk gave me a faint smile. When false is taken for true, true becomes false. If non-being turns into being, being becomes non-being. The me in the story said I would save you, so it has come true. From then on, there was a young monk in the world who always kept a bright red little mushroom in his alms bowl. Kind passers-by would often remind the young monk that it was a poisonous mushroom, but the little monk never thought of discarding the little mushroom. One day, the proud little mushroom couldn't help but ask him, "Why do you insist on keeping me?" The little monk shyly scratched his bald head. "Maybe it's because I still need a mushroom that can tell stories, to keep me company. Could you just remove the part where the little monk is forced to leave the monastery and marry a ghost? That's just too absurd." The little mushroom frantically shook its cap, firmly refusing. "If I don't write you to your death, how can you truly understand the despair of not being trusted by anyone? To put yourself in that position and feel the chilling malice, Buddha, that's not what I meant." The young monk helplessly rubbed his forehead, his sigh tinged with affection. "You really are a stubborn little mushroom." After hearing the two stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.